Welcome back in, guys, to episode 49 of the Advisor Odyssey podcast. Now, today's episode is going to be slightly a blast from the past as we talk about my 5 favorite questions that I've ever received from advisors, at least since I've started doing this podcast. Now, some of you might remember the left field segment that we used to do where advisors would send in their questions and I would answer on the show. We've stopped doing that, but I still get questions, and some of my old answers that I had that I'd given to like prior questions, I still, candidly, I think they're really good answers, and I think the questions are really valuable because I think they're common questions. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about my 5 personal favorite questions that I've received, and we're again going to be re-answering them now in potentially more relevant terms.
This is the Advisor Odyssey audio experience, where financial advisors, planners, insurance agents, and brokers will find fresh new ideas and perspectives around what it takes to launch, succeed, scale, and bulletproof their business.
The first question is, hey Daniel, if you had to choose just one social media platform to ever recommend an advisor to use again, based off of what's in existence now, which platform would you choose? Now, I love this question because your platform of choice will usually say a lot about you. Now, there are variables in the sense of, do you actually personally post your content, or do you work with someone to post it for you? Or is it totally canned content that you just pay it for a service and it's posted all the time and everyone's looks the same? So here's my thoughts on that. The platforms that I would recommend most advisors to use, there's really 2 dominant platforms, and there's a third one that's kind of up in the air right now. But the first 2 platforms, actually the first one by far is Facebook. Facebook should be the platform that you gravitate towards whenever it comes to any sort of digital marketing. It's the one that pretty much regardless of which age band or what demographic of clients you're working with, they're going to be on Facebook. It's where you can get a lot of the social media traffic. It's where you can generate a lot of clicks, a lot of lead flow. Next year, when there's really no more retargeting, when that's not even a thing, or we'll see if it ends up being a thing still, but when that's gone, items like Google, a lot of this, it's going to start limiting what you can do from a marketing perspective. So wherever you can go to build the strongest social media following, that's a choice. And I specify it's voluntary following. That's where you're going to win. And I believe that Facebook is the best place because it combines both the voluntarily, like we like the page or we're a part of this group, which, side note, start a group for financial advising clients if you haven't already. But it's where you can have the voluntary, but you can also have the paid advertising. So Facebook is, to me, far and away the number one social platform you should be strong at. The second one, though, is LinkedIn. And this is going to be a little more, influential, I suppose, for advisors who work with younger demographics, younger clientele. If you're working with retirees, you're not going to have more than likely, you're not going to have a huge interaction or a lot of engagement on LinkedIn. But if you're working with millennials, if quite frankly, anyone I'd say currently, born in 1980, like anything between 1970, 1980 and beyond, like that's really going to be probably the best demographic to target on LinkedIn. And there are, LinkedIn influencers, we can call it. You see what they're posting about. LinkedIn's algorithm is built to where it's just, you can make a post and it can go viral. So LinkedIn is very much my second platform of choice when it comes to social media. Now, the third is the one I said it's up in the air. And at the time of recording this, who knows how this will end up. But TikTok was a social media platform that I felt really strongly about for the future of branding and marketing, especially for financial advisors that are younger. Now, you could potentially replace TikTok with, there's a new company coming out, or I think a new lookalike deal. But the point is, when you can make a post and it can go viral without you having to spend any money, you need to be on that platform, whatever it is. If you can also limit your audience, if you can really structure your content in a way that promotes engagement, that can still get you a huge amount of exposure without having to pay for it, like LinkedIn and TikTok allow, you need to be on those platforms. So to recap, if I had to choose just one, it would be Facebook. But if I primarily worked with younger ages, like only, or if that was 80+% of my clientele, I would go LinkedIn. But the one to always pay attention to and keep your eye on to not like lose sight of is TikTok, or whatever the next lookalike of TikTok might be. Hey guys, quick note here. I'm going to be recording a podcast episode to air somewhere around May 31st, where we're going to be talking about advisor websites. And as part of that show, I'm actually going to be doing an audit on whomever wants to send me their website to actually look through, scan through, and give my real feedback on. So if you're interested in getting some totally like genuine, honest, and free feedback on how I think that your website looks, how it functions, how it could be better, and actually get some tangible advice that you could take back to your website designer, whomever that may be, please send me the link to your website via whether it's social media or if it's an email, whatever it is. Send me your website and I'll give it a quick look over. The second question of one of the 5 favorite that I've received is, it was a question within a question, I suppose, but it was, hey Daniel, how should I answer the question of how do I describe what I do for my clients? And now, this question in and of itself was interesting because what this advisor was asking at the core was, how do I tell my clients what it is that I do in the best way possible? And again, this is a question that a lot of advisors stumble on. And the reason they stumble on is because they use terms, they use vernacular, they use descriptive items that every other advisor does. If you say, I help people plan for their retirements, well, that's great. So do, thousands of others. I help educate people on how they can invest and save their money. Well, that's great. So do thousands of others. So when you have to articulate what it is that you do differently, and ultimately just what you do in general, that's a hard question. So when this advisor asked me that, my answer to them was this. If you can't clearly articulate to your clients and sum up what you do for them and how you help them into a single sentence, then you're missing the boat. And so if that's you, and if you've missed that boat because you can't do that, you need to find a way to brand whatever it is that you're offering, whatever it is that you're doing. And visually, if you want to picture it, put a bow around it. Make it a gift. Make it yours. So when clients ask you what it is that you do, well, you need to be able to tell them, I help people do, blank. And that blank could be, I help them develop their own custom, plan, or I help them develop their own, freedom retirement kind of deal. I don't want to say any specific names on the spot here, 'cause I'm not trying to promote anyone, but brand your deliverable, brand your sales process. Whatever it is that you give to clients, tangibly, whether it's a report, a document, or maybe your slogan, your mantra, your motto, brand that and actually turn it into a tangible thing. So then when your clients ask you to describe what it is that you do, you can tell them very simply in one sentence what you do. Now, the third question that I got that I really love is, what data should I be tracking in my business? And then how should I be tracking it? This can be construed in a lot of different ways because you have the whole marketing world, which is every single marketing activity that you're doing, especially if you're paying for it, you should be tracking every piece of it. If you're doing seminars and workshops, for example, or live speaking engagements, you need to be tracking how much you're spending on the invitations, how many invitations are going out, or how many people your digital ad is hitting. You need to be tracking your response rate, your RSVP rate, your cancel rate, your show rate, your appointment setting rate, your appointment show rate. You need to be tracking all this all the way through the through the process. Now, if we look at the sales process, and this is also how many prospects show up to that first appointment, how many stick through, where am I losing people? One of my favorite conversations I ever had with an advisor, and this actually led this advisor to have almost a 60% growth rate just by changing this one thing. And it was all because of a conversation I had with them. And this is not to toot my own horn, to be clear, but this is why little hinges can swing such big doors in this business. This advisor knew that they were losing prospects throughout their sales process. And they knew that they happened to be losing a lot of these prospects towards the end. Now at the time, they didn't exactly, at the time when we first talked about it, they didn't know exactly if it was happening after they proposed what they were doing or if it was right before they were about to propose it. They just knew it was at the end. So they had gathered a lot of fact finders of clients that never showed up. Was ultimately what we're saying. But this advisor, what they ended up doing, and I guess this is a side piece of advice, they ended up weaving into their final meeting, or perhaps it was their second meeting, I believe. Looking back, it was at the end of their second meeting, after they initially talk about what they think is a good change of plans or a good portfolio build out or whatever it is. They basically built in to the conversation, the dialogue, as a close to the conversation, and it set up or a tee up to the next appointment to really solidify it was, Sandy Sue prospect, Sandy Sue, John Smith, John and Sandy, what do you think will happen when we contact your current advisor and we let them know that you're going to be making a change because you want to go with this plan instead because the current one's not working for you? And now this question, which it can be asked in slightly different ways, but ultimately it's putting them on the spot to tell you what's going to happen. What rebuttal or objection will they receive from their current advisor? And when they answer that question, the new advisor, in this case, I guess for me in the role play is, that's what I was thinking would happen too. And that's what tends to happen often. Do you know what to say in a situation like this? Or would you like me to give you some language or tell you how some other clients of mine have answered that? And oftentimes they'll ask, for some advice, what do they say? And again, you would weave your own language on this, but it's ultimately, your advisor now and myself, my team, we just want the best for you. And so I don't think anyone's out here doing anything malicious or anything like that. I want to be clear on that. But there comes a time and a place for when not only plans change, but expertise and experience matters, depending on what type of plan that is. Your advisor did a great job, doing A, B, and C. And you would actually want to lay out what they did well prior. Me and my team, we specialize in where you guys are honestly at now and where you want to go moving forward. We're back half planners. So that's ultimately the dialogue that this advisor started having. And I'll stay out of the weeds of it, but this advisor started having that dialogue. They, as I said, suddenly every few appointments they were having that were the second and third appointments, they started converting more from prospect to client. They were onboarding more clients. Their revenue jumped up, and they realized the only thing they really changed was they started having that dialogue in the beginning. So that's just one example of why it's so important to track your data. And when it comes to how you track it, I don't think you need to buy any fancy software. There are some companies that you can outsource to. Actually, one of the companies that you can outsource your data tracking to will be receiving an invite to actually join me on a podcast. We'll have to link it. But this individual, they will come in, and if you can hire someone to do this, great. But have them just ultimately track all the data, dig into it, and move on from there. Make sure you guys, if you haven't yet, please take a minute and check out the link in the description here to subscribe to my weekly newsletter called The Weekly Voyage, where we are featuring, we're highlighting an article that just came out the week prior. We're featuring the podcast episode if you haven't seen it yet. Plus, we're sharing a multiple of 2, 3, sometimes 4 brand new ideas that have not yet been shared that can only help you grow your business and build the practice of your dreams. Now, again, the link is in the description. It is called the Weekly Voyage Newsletter, and it is on LinkedIn and through LinkedIn's newsletter platform. Now, on to the fifth and final question here, and it is around that topic of marketing as well, but it's, hey, Daniel, how often should I be analyzing my data on marketing? And then the second question that went along with that was, should I be working with someone to do that, or should I be doing it on my own? Now, I would recommend, when it comes to should you do it on your own or work with someone, I think you should always be doing it on your own in general. But I do think that it makes a ton of sense to have an actual marketing professional look at this data with you. Because it's one thing to know how to read the data. It's a whole other thing to actually be able to read it, understand it, and then have a plan of attack on how to improve, this area or how to fix this area. So that is honestly one value add that it's been it's important for me to give to the advisors that I work with, my clients, is, hey, yeah, you've got all this data. Your marketing's, it's working, but how well? I don't know. You don't know either. Where can you improve? I don't know. You don't know either. So let's dig into it. And then when we find out where we can get better, where we can grow, where we can save money potentially, like that's where the professional should be able to tell you, here's how you can improve that. Step by step, here's how to improve it. And I'm sure you've heard the adage of coach versus consultant. A consultant will tell you what to do, but a coach will tell you what to do, and also they'll help you do it. Make sure you're meeting with a coach, not a consultant. I'm a coach to the advisors I work with. You do not have to work with me, to be clear. I'm not saying that. But when you work with someone who is a coach, they should be able to both analyze it and help you fix it. So that is it, guys. Those are my 5 favorite questions that I've ever received from advisors. Feel free, keep sending me in your questions if you have them. If something's on top of mind for you, it's probably on top of mind for everyone else, or at least a lot of other advisors. So thanks for listening, guys. This is the Advisor Odyssey podcast.
We hope you enjoyed the Advisor Odyssey audio experience. Connect with us on your favorite social media platforms at Advisor Odyssey. You can find our full-length educational videos to watch on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Check out all our articles and publications on medium.com/Advisor Odyssey. The Advisor Odyssey podcast is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The contents and opinions shared, expressed, or otherwise alluded to on the Advisor Odyssey podcast and audio experience are solely ideas and not to be depicted as tax, legal, or investment advice. Results from the use of these concepts may not be representative of the experience of all financial professionals and are no guarantee of future success. Your results may vary. The Advisor Odyssey and its affiliated members are not to be held liable or responsible for any lawful recourse or punishment invoked upon the individual or accompanying business partners or team members. Federal law, state law, and/or insurance carrier requirements may prohibit or place limitations on any of the ideas and activities expressed. All advisors, planners, wholesalers, affiliated reps, and investment advisors should be aware of any limitations imposed by federal regulation, state regulation, insurance carriers, broker-dealers, and registered investment advisors as applicable. Investment advisors are strongly encouraged to obtain pre-approval from the broker-dealer, registered investment advisor, insurance company, or similar institution with which they may be affiliated.